Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. Mayor Miro Weinberger of Burlington is here with us again on What Matters This Week. Mayor, appreciate you being here.
Lauren, it's great to be back with you.
Let's start with your recent win on town meeting day. You said that night that you were humbled, only 129 votes separating you and Max Tracy. How do you gauge what this means about the progressive voices, progressive policies going forward?
So Lauren, this was a unprecedented election in a lot of ways. There were more voters that came out than ever before. There were more candidates, I think, than we've ever had before in a mayor's race. We couldn't campaign in our normal ways. I'm grateful that when the dust settled, that I have this opportunity to continue to serve the people of Burlington, serve the city I love for another 3 years, and I'm going to work very hard at that. And I certainly am. I am humbled by how many people, how close the election was, and I'm. I do want to work to. Certainly, I consider myself the mayor for all the people of Burlington, even people who didn't vote for me, and I really want to get back. I'm looking forward to being able to actually literally get back to that table in City Hall soon when COVID come to an end, and be working with my colleagues on the council. And I'm really, there clearly is some very different views about where we go as a city. Different parts of the city voted very differently in this election. I think that really makes it incumbent on me as well as councilors to find a way forward, to forge consensus out of difference. We've done that many times in the past. I'm confident we can do it again.
Have you had a conversation with Max Tracy since town meeting day about how you can both work together?
Yeah, I have, Lauren. I talked to him on election night, and he was very gracious, and I really appreciate. I think, frankly, it was quite statesmanlike how quickly he, even despite the closeness, that he conceded, didn't ask for a recount. That would have been within his rights. And we actually just spent quite a bit of time together yesterday and talked a lot about, we went down to the waterfront outside and talked about where we go from here. We agree on a lot of things. I think maybe more things than people realize. We both are very committed to addressing the climate emergency. We're both active proponents of alternative transportations, bike lanes, additional investments in sidewalks. Max has been a major, we've worked together on the infrastructure progress we've made in recent years. So there certainly will be areas where we are very different people and have different views, but there's a lot that we do agree on and are going to make progress on together.
Let's talk about your decision on Monday to remove Tyasha Green, who's the racial equity director, from this major policing study and replace her with the general manager of Burlington Electric. Why so?
Well, Lauren, we're speaking on Wednesday afternoon, and I've come to realize in the time since Monday that I made a mistake with that decision. And I just released a couple hours ago a statement reversing course. I got it wrong, and that it was problematic. By getting it wrong, I think belied my strong support and belief and appreciation for Tyasha Green as our director of racial equity, inclusion, and belonging. I think we're very fortunate to have her here. I fought to get her here. I was very proud to appoint her to that position as the first racial equity and inclusion and belonging director. And I wanted to change this decision quickly to make clear that my confidence in her and her ability to do a great job leading this study. I think, I want to just own it. Like, I think my own biases impacted the way I proceeded here, and I've apologized for it and going to work to correct it.
There was a lot of pushback and some controversy that you received since that decision. Was that involved then in changing course? Because you initially were going to replace her with a white man.
Yeah, I am changing. I did not anticipate, maybe I should have, but I thought I had worked hard to find a way forward that made sense. I didn't anticipate the level of disagreement that came pretty swiftly once I made that decision. And absolutely, it's because I'm listening and concerned that that this really, because I'm concerned that this, again, would undermine my confidence in Director Green, and really set back my strong commitment to making progress on racial justice. I thought it was important that I act quickly to fix it. So it's absolutely because of the input I've been getting since Monday, and that has helped me see that I got it wrong.
Okay, Mayor. How much money will Burlington get from the American Rescue Plan? Do you know yet?
Well, we don't fully know, in that this is a big bill, and there's some details of it that are yet to be figured out. But we believe we will be getting at least $19 million directly from the federal government, 50% in the next couple months, and then another 50% in a year. It is very good news for the city, for the taxpayers of Burlington, that we are getting these funds. It's going to allow us to end this period of somewhat curtailed services and a hiring freeze, and provide the services that people of Burlington expect. It's going to allow us to do that without a property tax increase, and it's even better than that, really. This replaces all of the revenues that we've lost as a result of COVID over the last year, and then gives us some additional resources to proactively take steps to help Burlingtonians during these very challenging economic times. The public can expect we're going to have the same kind of innovation and engagement and new initiatives rolling out on a regular basis that we have had throughout COVID. That's how we're going to proceed in the year ahead with these additional resources.
Have you spoken with anyone at the White House? I know a czar, so to speak, has been picked to oversee how the money will be implemented. Or do you have plans to speak with somebody from the White House about how to divvy up these funds?
Well, in terms of the funds that that 19 million, I think the city, I'm glad to say we don't have to go to the White House and ask for we're being given quite a bit of discretion through the legislation to invest this in ways that help Burlingtonians the best that I and the city council can figure out. We do, as you know, have a good source within the White House. My CEDO director, Luke McGowan, is now there playing a key role supporting municipalities and states during the pandemic and recovery. And we certainly are staying in touch with him. He just had a second baby, so we've not been calling him for like the last week, but we definitely are staying in touch with Luke, and I think that relationship is going to be a helpful one in the years ahead.
You had mentioned too, after it was named that former Mayor Pete Buttigieg would become Transportation Secretary, that you would probably work with his office. Are there any plans to bring him to Burlington, or maybe have a conversation with him about what the Queen City needs?
Listen, I do know Mayor Pete. I'm a big fan of his. We were elected at about the same time, and so I've known him for years before he was the Mayor Pete we all know today. I think that was a great appointment of President Biden to make him the head of, make him Secretary of Transportation, and I'm sure he is very involved in these plans for some kind of infrastructure bill, and it would be awesome to get him back here. We've had secretaries of transportation here before. Secretary Fox came in the time that I've been mayor. We don't have an invite out there pending yet, Lauren, but I would love to get him up here. I think I know I know Burlingtonians would love a chance to meet him in person. I'd love to make that happen.
You'll be sworn in again in April, and we expect a state of the city. I know last year's state of the city was weeks into lockdowns. What can we expect this year, as here we are, hopefully seeing the light at the end of the tunnel in this crisis?
I am an optimist about where we are now, Lauren. I mean, we still are living under the state of emergency that we had last April. It feels very different to me now, though. Now we can see, yes, the the light at the end of the tunnel is growing and getting much closer. I thought the news last week from President Biden that he believes that all states should allow all adults to sign up by May 1st for a vaccine, and that by July 4th, we should have some level of normalcy back is really encouraging. That tracks with, what Dr. Leffler has been saying on my briefings for weeks, and what I believe, which is these are amazing vaccines. They are amazingly effective. Everyone should try to sign up and take them as soon as they can. And if we all do that, we're going to bring this pandemic to an end in a matter of weeks or a short number of months. And gosh, that is going to be a great day when we really can declare the pandemic over.
The president, the governor, hopeful that we can meet this somewhat normalcy on July 4th. July 3rd is usually the big Independence Day celebration. So I want to ask, is it looking like some kind of fireworks show may still happen?
From my perspective, Lauren, yes. I've told my team to plan as if we are going to be able to have a major celebration this year. It's certainly possible there could be some unanticipated twist and turn to this pandemic. There are some risks that are still out there, but I'm very hopeful that we are going to be able to celebrate our independence as well as the end of this pandemic down there on the waterfront on July 3rd.
Okay, that's good news. All right, won't be canceled. We're looking forward to that. Mayor, one final thing. Let's talk about City Place. I know we heard some hiccups last week when it came to maybe a issue with the parking spots. What's the next date that you yourself think that Burlingtonians can look forward to with this project?
Well, so Lauren, this now is a project that is like all development projects in that there is some real uncertainty and a lot of work to do as a project goes through the permitting process and then into the construction process. And our system, so in some ways that's really progress, and people should see that as good news. For a significant number of months there was a lawsuit between the city and the developer that represented a potential obstacle to that happening. Now we got that resolved in a way that didn't impact that critical path timeline, and I'm happy about that. We also, are hopefully at least we're done with this period of corporate turmoil from Brookfield, where there was a changing group that was involved in this, and they, were not proceeding to try to get this built. This group that includes these local business people are now moving through the permitting process, and the city supports them, hopes they succeed. Now that we have this settlement agreement between us, we are going to do everything we can to support them. Something that I think is important that we all really should understand now, I think, about this project is this is a public-private partnership, but in many ways we're at the part of the partnership where it's up to the private party, the developers, to lead and get this done. And the city really has really no direct role in making that happen. What we do have now in this settlement agreement is if there are further delays, if they are unable for whatever reason to move forward, we now have a guarantee that the roads, those reconnected streets, will get built. And to me, that's a really encouraging thing that we have that guarantee, because that means one way or another, we're going to get this infrastructure back that is essential for homes and jobs and really the neighborhood that we want there to flourish once again. We're going to get that as a result of this settlement agreement, and we're going to get that without any cost to taxpayers.
Mayor, I appreciate it. Thank you.